Over the next 2 hours, we compose ourselves into a class and we are going back to the school and we are learning about finances and money and businesses. So my role is simple here. I am the head teacher of this school for the next 2 hours. So if you want to address me, you address me as headmaster. As we continue, allow me to also send my appreciation to Renzori Water. They sponsor our water, they sponsor our refreshments. Fairway Hotel, they also do, they host our guests and have our millionaire guests. They are the ones who give them breakfast. You know, we can't be, their breakfast can't be coming from NSSF. They are millionaires. So thank you to Fairway Hotel and thank you to CMA. Those are the people who we partner with to have this go out. Today we are going to be talking about human resource, attracting and retaining. When we talk about human resource, things come to mind. What's your value? Is it about value? Is it about volume? I'm not the expert, but we are going to be asking these people. Would you hire yourself? If you are hiring, if you are on the other side of the panel, would you hire yourself? Are you the right human resource? What do entrepreneurs, what do business owners, what do employers look out for? How do they retain this human resource? Now, if you're a business owner, how you can, today we are going to bounce ideas. How do you retain this human resource? Most of us have housemaids. For some of you are legends and you have had over 7 housemaids in 1 year. So you can't even retain 1 housemaid in a year. You have 7, a turnover of 7. But we are looking at going into managing other resources. How is that done? And today we have a distinguished panel of experts to handle that. What is it? What do the peers, how is it that my peers are commanding a premium and I'm not? We studied the same course, we did the same everything. They are being paid 3 times that what I'm being paid. If I was given an option to resign or to take half pay, what would I do? Would I take half pay and stay on job? Or would I resign and go get another job? Am I that marketable? Those are questions we're going to be answering today. But before we do that, I would like to know who do we have. So I'll ask my back office team to please relay our first poll question. Who are you? The people that are holding this, tuned into this, who are you? What's your age? Are you male? Are you female? Are you an entrepreneur? So our poll question is, what's your gender? What's your age? Are you below 20? Are you between 21 and 30? Are you between 31 and 40? 41 and 50? Above 50? And what stage of entrepreneurship are you on? The panel here would love to know this. So under that we are saying, are you thinking? There are quite a number of multiple choices. So we'll do this and in the next 5 seconds we can relay these results. I hope my team is kind enough to share with me those results. So we close this poll in the next 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's have them closed and let's see those results before I invite the panel of experts to take away the day. What do we have? I'm waiting. Yes. The poll results are showing, if you could, yes, 46% of us are female, 54% are male. I want to commend the males because consistently over the last 2 months, we are overtaking the females in participation on these platforms where we discuss things of national importance. Thank you so much, the males. Yes, we are finally taking back our place. We don't have anyone below 20. The majority of the people here are between 31 to 40, and that is 38%. Then 41 to 50, 31%. Then 25% between 21 to 30. Again, the demographics are changing a little bit to the people above 30 years. Usually the majority is below 40 years, but now below 30 years actually, but today we have the majority being above 30 years. What stage of entrepreneurship are you in? The majority of our people are in the thinking. No, they are in the starting phase, with 35% of us still starting. 20% are thinking. 6% have a business that is under a year. 29% have a business between 2 years and 5 years. And 9% have a business more than 5 years. Thank you so much. You can put down that poll and let's get to the gist of today. How do you attract talent? How do you attract and retain good talent in a business? To discuss today, we have a panel of distinguished gentlemen and lady. But it's not my place. I told you these people command $1 million. They don't move around with it in their pockets. Please don't don't go after them. But they command in the economy, they command over $1 million. And Aza, the president of the EO, will have the honors of introducing them to the to our audience. Aza, welcome. The people you are talking to are affiliated to NSSF either as members, as customers, because they employ our members, or they are potential customers to NSSF, and they're all in the different parts of the world. Kindly share with them your wisdom.
So thank you so much for having us again. This is our second session between EO and NSSF. EO is a global organization. It's a community of entrepreneurs, and they have chapters in every country. And in Uganda, our chapter is relatively new. There are around 25 of us. If you're interested in joining or interested in finding out more information, just Google EO Uganda or Entrepreneurial Organization Uganda and find out more information. So today's topic, attracting and retaining the right talent, is a very, very crucial topic for those of us who want to grow our business. At Fairway Hotel, I always say one of my greatest strengths is not only our location, but it's our staff. Those are the ones that are dialoguing with customers. Those are the touch points between the business and the customers. And we wouldn't be where we are today without our staff. Today, we are blessed to be joined by two very, very renowned people in the field. We have Madame Neha and Mr. Patrick, who will tell us a bit more about their businesses and how we can attract the right talent. So Patrick, maybe we can start with you by introducing yourself. Tell us a bit about your business and what problem does your business solve?
Good morning. Yes, I work at QSourcing Self-Tech. I'm the CEO, but I like to call myself the chief servant because once everyone else has failed, then I come in, and failed meaning that they found a challenge that they cannot solve. Then I come in to help with that solution. What problem do we solve? We like to think of ourselves as creating impact, impacting communities one opportunity at a time. Every opportunity is, if we recruit someone, we're creating impact on the community. If we ensure that they get a useful job or employment opportunity, that's impact as well. If we're working with our clients, we're creating impact, meaning there is third level impact through working with our client. So yeah, and QSourcing is regional, East African, across Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Uganda, and now in Mozambique. We have got partners who operate in the French-speaking part of Africa. That's Congo, Brazzaville, Senegal, Mauritania, Ivory Coast, or what they call Cote d'Ivoire, Burkina Faso. And recently we did a JV with a British company specific to oil and gas, and they operate in Eastern Europe, Europe itself, and opening up in the US. So why am I announcing this? Because when Ugandans or people working with us on the continent join our group, they have opportunities in all these places. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Neha, please introduce yourself and your business.
Good morning. My name is Neha Pandya. I'm the co-founder and chief operating officer Flip Africa. Flip is a digital freelance marketplace that aims to create trust, transparency, and upward mobility in the $800 billion African gig economy. And we started here in Uganda 2 years ago, and over the years, we plan to scale to other countries across the continent. The problem that we're trying to solve is threefold. First, the invisibility, exploitation, and lack of upward mobility in the gig economy. So I heard the outline of the types of businesses that we have in the discussion with us today. The great majority are under 5 years. So when we think about the informal sector, sometimes we think about traders, but the informal sector, or the gig economy, is actually much, much larger than that. It includes professionals and professional services and businesses that are starting out that haven't quite created that level of formality in attracting talent at this point. But there's so much potential there to connect even the smallest of businesses with talent so that they can grow. Many of our businesses don't hit the 5-year mark. So how can we help them get the right talent they need to get to that next level and grow?
So, Neha, in your opinion, why is it important to attract the right talent, and what do you look for when you're hiring?
So when we talk about how the world is evolving towards recognizing the importance of people, you look at large corporations in the West, and all of a sudden they have positions like chief people officer. In some of our smaller businesses, we think, how can you invest in a C-suite executive whose role is just to manage people. But I think companies have recognized, like you said, without that focus on the whole person within your organization, not just the work they're doing, they can't excel and perform to the level that you require of them. So even the smallest of businesses, if that one person business is trying to do everything, handle the accounts, handle the sales, handle everything, they can't actually focus on growth.
Yeah. And Patrick, in your opinion, why is it important to invest time in attracting the right talent? And what do you personally look for when you're putting together your team?
When I was starting, because I founded QSourcing about 16 years ago, when I was starting QSourcing, I started it as a business consulting company. But my first client asked me to do a recruitment, and I was surprised. I was like, you don't understand my business. But as I delivered that job, very, very strange recruitment exercise, because I didn't understand that recruitment was actually a business area. It suddenly occurred to me that people are the most critical thing in a business. And when I use the word people, because I don't want to use human resource, because when you're looking at the value of a gem, you don't say minerals, because that's a resource. You talk about diamond because people understand diamond. So are you a diamond? Are you gold? Are you silver? That is how I like to look at human beings. They are a talent. So when you're bringing in someone into your business, ask yourself the question, what challenge or what task do you want this individual to perform? If you don't ask yourself that question and you simply go out for people, then you will be challenged. You and the person will be challenged, because the person will assume they're doing their work, and you'll be very, very, very agitated that the person is not delivering, but you didn't spell it out. So it's very important that we understand that people are the partners in our business to deliver, because as entrepreneurs, you come up with this brilliant idea, you've got a market, you've got clients who are interested in paying you for that, but you're not the one going to perform all these roles. So getting the right partners who are your staff is very, very important. Now, when you bring in the people, you have to know that there has to be continuous development. We talk about continuous development like you leave it to them. There is training. Now, training is, it a lot of times is confused with going back to school, but it's about skills development. You could engage your team in learning more about the product you're selling, engage your team in learning more about the service you're offering the market. And as QSourcing, what we did recently, working with Stanford Business School alumni, we have worked together on a platform called Funza. Funza in Swahili is basically Jefunza, learning. So this helps us to continuously engage the people, the staff, and all those who hold our brand, to learn an additional skill every day, because it's important. You know, what you give off is what you know.
Yeah.
If you give off things that you studied 10 years ago, then you're running out of you're out of date.
Yeah.
You need to keep learning. So learning is an additional aspect. It's like polishing your diamond ring.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
Yeah.
I agree. My grandfather used to always say that knowledge and education is that one passport that no one can ever take from you, and it's something you can always transfer to different parts in your life.
Yeah.
There's one word you used that I liked. You said partner. When we're looking for employees, these are the partners in our business.
Yeah.
How can those businesses at home attract talent? Where can they post about it? How do they find the talent?
Interesting question. There's so many job portals these days. Now, job portals show you the skill set that are out there. They're not going to tell you who is going to fit your job best. You have to define what you need from this person. We have dreams as entrepreneurs, but we tend to think that keeping those dreams a secret would help, because someone else will steal your dream. It's not possible.
Yeah.
Someone will steal your dream, but will not implement it like you in any way. So you find the right partner and share your dream. Well, you may have a dream of 10 years, defined in the next 10 years. You may have one in the next 5 years, but you share the one you want this person to know for the next 2 years. I want this person for the next 2 years because I want to grow the business from this point to the next point. If you're asking for a junior accountant and you intend to grow your business tenfold, after 2 years, for sure, that person is not going to be the only accountant you have, because you need someone who can handle the size of the business at that stage in life. So the advice I would give is, first define what you need as a business owner. Do not make it complicated. Just say what problem you have. Do you need to have a bookkeeper? Everyone likes to go for accountants because you want to do bookkeeping, but they're bookkeepers, and bookkeepers do not have a degree.
Yeah.
They have diplomas. And a bookkeeper does not necessarily have to be an accounting degree holder. No.
So first understand and define what you're looking for as a business owner, then go out and start advertising for the position you need. Neha, you're on the online space. What are some ways that business owners can attract talent? Where do we post about it?
So like Patrick said, there are various platforms. As Flip, we've tried to make it very accessible so that it's absolutely free for a business of any size to come and post a job for just that specific task you want completed. So let's say you want a bookkeeper, but you just want to hire them for 2 weeks at the end of each month, or for a few days a month, just to complete specific tasks. So Flip is one of the platforms, but there are many. Fuzu, Brighter Monday, there are many. Of course, QSourcing at a higher level. But there are many, many partners out there. I think what we rely on so much as business owners is word of mouth referrals. And so the common procedure is to ask someone that you know, hey, I need an accountant, or hey, I need a lawyer, who do you recommend? But that's quite an inefficient process. It also gives us only those people within our immediate network when there may be so much talent out there. So yes, Flip, many other platforms where you can easily, quickly, and post a job free of charge.
Okay. At breakfast this morning, we were talking about the mistakes that business owners make and the losses they can create if you choose the wrong people. Mm-hmm. Patrick, how can businesses really define what is the loss we incur when we choose the wrong human capital?
It's let's put it this way. First, I want to step back and define our businesses. When you start a business, you yourself as the dream holder. You're not yet a startup. You're an individual trying to start up an enterprise. So until you make the first sale, until you have the first client who actually pays you money for what you've sold to them, you don't have an enterprise. And once you start with that enterprise, you have now to look for someone who is going to do the same thing you did, but more times, more products, more clients. And those partners are the ones you call your staff now, and you start to grow. You become a startup company because you have books of accounts. You grow into a small business, and and so on and so forth. So imagine having a partner that you're replacing every so often, and yet you have trained the person on the product. So typically, minimum cost to your business directly is about 6 months worth of payroll for that individual position. So it's important that you select right. Do not think that because a person shares a bloodline with you, they have the right talent.
Okay. So I think that takes us to our tip number one. As business owners, let's not lose money. Let's really invest the time in finding the right person for the job we need. First, understand what is your problem, what do you need to solve, then find out where do you want to post for this role, and spend time and invest time in interviewing well and finding the right fit for your company. So thankfully now the economy is opened up. Curfew is now behind us, hopefully forever. Where do you guys see the opportunities right now? Where are people applying for jobs, and where is the need? Nihal.
Sure. So for businesses of in accounting, so whether that means a bookkeeper or a full accountant or somewhere in between, I think that's an area that does not stop growing. Another area is also sales. So especially for those those businesses that are pushing products, even services in some cases, the salespeople to get your product to market are jobs that are constantly coming in. Of course, as we enter 2022, the digital jobs are increasing. So areas like digital marketing, graphics design. A super admin is someone that every business wants and needs. And increasingly, as Patrick may tell you, jobs in the field of oil and gas, and of course clean energy as well. So solar and other clean energy sources.
Patrick, in our friend circle, you're kind of branded as the oil and gas guy. So whenever we have oil and gas questions, we come to you. Where do you see the opportunities in that sector, and how is QSource preparing for that need?
Yeah, oil and gas has been on people's lips for a couple of years now, and finally we had the final investment decision being signed or made. We, as QSourcing, we've been in this space for a bit of time because we started working with some of these oil majors over 7 years ago. So I guess why QSourcing has been at the forefront is because we've been pushing for the agenda that skill up, skill up, skill up. The opportunities in this space pretty much are going to be exploited by those businesses that build themselves around products and services that will be consumed by the oil and gas companies. For those who've got skill sets that, and when I say skill set, anyone with a hand skill, anyone with knowledge on a particular operation task, package that and let that be your identity, let that be your brand. The oil and gas sector, you do not exploit the opportunity by working in the oil fields. No. Those in the oil fields are the ones extracting the oil. Now, right now we're going into the development phase, which is infrastructure construction. So if you're not in that space, do not despair, because there will be the oil operations and maintenance phase after these next 4 years. So in these next 4 years, probably expose yourself to higher standards in your space. The tasks that you have been trained in. If you are a person who's recently left school, volunteer in an organization, volunteer somewhere, such that you push your skill and passion. A lot of people keep asking and sending me saying, I have a first-class degree in this field, so I perform better than a lot of people, so can you give me a job? I'm not looking for first-class degree holders. I'm looking for people who can perform the task. And performing the task, we need to see the evidence. Now, one would ask that if I've not gotten a position to show you my skill, how do I have the work experience you desire? If you're in that position, you need to note that for you, a volunteer's position is what you need to occupy. That's the immediate opportunity. Well, you could keep looking for a job, but going for a volunteer opportunity where they give you a refund for your transport and they pay you and they give you lunch, gives you exposure. Then you build up, and the next time you are presenting yourself, you present what you achieved, what impact you had on the company that employed you and the job that was expected of you. Please do not rewrite the job description of your last position, because you're writing just like the next guy. But if you write what you achieved, that's different. That shows who you are. The CV, the application, defines who you are. So market yourself. And you have to market yourself such to an extent that you get onto the shortlist and get onto the panel. It's not obvious that you get onto the panel. So telling me that you have so many years in management does not tell me anything. You probably did not achieve as much as someone who had 3 years compared to you of 10 years. So would like to see that. If a person of 3 years shows me the skills and achievements, and I see that it resonates with where I want to go as an entrepreneur or the client that we're recruiting for, I'll go with that guy in comparison to you of 10 years. Because a lot of times, yes, we ask for the skills, the number of years, but number of years is, we're estimating that within this period is when someone would have grown through the ranks. Yeah.
Okay. So let's jump into the interview process. I always find it quite interesting when you're interviewing various people for various positions. Let's give some tips to those watching of what are those questions they can ask when in an interview. Anything unique that's off the beaten track? I know a lot of people like to ask about why did you choose this course or tell us about your CV, but what are some of those questions that business owners can ask to really understand the applicant that sits in front of them?
So my advice is to keep it very practical, because you want to know how that person is going to perform when they're in the job. So if it were a sales candidate, for example, I would ask them something like, let's say you go into the field, with a contract, and you're supposed to sell X number of units over the period of the month. Let's say you're not hitting those targets, or you have had a lot of trouble making sales. How would you go and talk to your supervisor? So what I would want to hear in that answer is something that tells me when the person would raise an orange or a red flag that things are not going the way we expected, and what kind of evidence they're going to bring to their supervisor to say, I haven't made sales, but this is what I'm trying to do every week. Am I on the right track? So something that tells us that even if they're not meeting their targets, what are they doing to add value to the organization? Because people are not hiring simply, to create jobs. They're hiring because they have a business need.
Yeah. And Patrick, how about yourself? Any unique questions that people can learn and what to ask?
Yes. As I said before, when you're hiring, you want a person to come in and join you in your achievement of your dream. So you need to understand this individual, ask them about their story, get to know them. Why we ask for so many years of experience, minimum qualifications, all that is trying to get to know you. So if as a new entrant into the job market, you have no story in regard to work experience, talk about your past, what things you have done that have reflected your passion for what you commit yourself to. We've had situations, especially for entry-level positions, where a person comes, they've got no prior experience, but they show that they're interested. The person says, I would like to get into this space because I love impacting people in this way. I love creating value in people. What makes me happy when I end my day is having happy people that I've served. So that's a person who's going to go an extra mile because it's an entry-level position. Either way, we're going to train you. We're going to teach you how to do the job better. So at least you have the mindset. One thing that's very difficult in a business and as entrepreneurs we need to understand is changing the mindset of individuals is the most challenging. It's building the skill set is a lot easier because you expose them and they pick it and they execute.
Yeah.
But if the mindset is off your track, it's going to be very difficult to align.
So for you, you ask questions that look out for passion and for mindset. So you believe that if you find someone with those correct things and they align with your company, you can train them into what you want.
Correct.
Now, what else do you watch out for when you're in an interview? What do you watch out for from the applicants?
So one thing that you can control is really, your confidence. And I think it takes a while for young people to build. But by the time you get to the interview stage, and here I'm talking to young people who may be joining, maybe interviewing, by the time you get to the interview stage, you have the minimum qualifications on your CV to get the job. So the job is yours to lose. So go ahead and own the experience that you do have. What I look for is, even in an early stage candidate, what have they done in school? What have they done in church or in their mosque? What have they built leadership experience through Rotary or Rotaract? So what are those things that they're doing that show, yes, I'm entry level, but at every stage of my life, I've been hustling, or I've tried to stand out. I've tried to, do these things. That shows me passion. That sort of shows me drive. I'm really looking for people whose values and purpose are aligned to ours as an organization, and someone who's going to work very, very hard. Because that mindset of work hard, get the job done, be persistent, be okay with failure, and then have the courage to continue to persevere. Again, those are very hard to train in.
In my opinion, I think it's also quite important to ask questions that get people thinking. In my first interview, I was asked how many hairs are on a dog. And I remember thinking to myself, I have no idea. How would I even gauge? But then I realized that what he was asking me is, what is my thought process into solving this problem? And now I have adopted that in my own questions. I always ask random questions like, if I was to give you 20 million shillings, what would you do with that money? Or I'll show a picture of a house and I'll say, how many nails do you think are in this house to build this house? And I just want to kind of gauge and see, well, what are you going to say? What is your answer? Are you going to try, or are you just going to say, I have no idea? So these are the kind of things that people can use to test the people that sit in front of them. So tip number 2, ask questions that get people thinking and how to solve problems. Observe their body language, observe how long it takes for them to answer questions, and really gauge what are their passions and mindset, and will it really fit into what you want. And those of you in sales, accounting, and anything digital or super admin, there are a lot of opportunities out there. Get your CV polished and start applying. So once you go through the interview process, now the next most important process is the onboarding process. I think a lot of companies don't do this well, in the sense that now they've offered the job, they've brought someone into their company, and they've just thrown them into their company. How can we better onboard people to make them more successful into our companies? Yeah.
So I think when we, especially for smaller businesses or those in this startup phase, but even for larger businesses, I think the challenge is sometimes we're ready to hire, we know we have a business need, the person comes in and they're thrown into the deep end. And a lot of times the deep end is a great place for talent to learn how to swim. But the reality is if somebody doesn't know exactly what they're supposed to do, there's a greater chance that they're going to fail. So as businesses, we really need to, and I'm definitely guilty of this, have very clear deliverables, KPIs. What is your talent supposed to, what are those key things that the talent has to achieve, and when? So the clearer that is clear that, these are my tasks on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, and my deliverables, and be available to check in with that person and say, hey, how are we doing, and enable that dialogue. I think the more likely they are to succeed.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm also guilty of that, in the sense that, I bring people into my organization and I just assume they'll know what to do. Mm-hmm. But setting the right KPIs, and I think having that routine check-in when someone first joins, maybe after day 3, day 7, day 10, so you can really get a good idea of how their journey is going, is quite important. How about yourself, Patrick? How do you onboard people successfully?
So everyone entering the first a place for the first time wants to make sure they don't make mistakes. So they're looking out for, how do I do things right? How do I do the right thing? Or the right things. First, you learn how to do things right. What are the systems? The KPIs show you what you should do, what things are right to do. But then getting to know your peers in the place. Now, if you're a small business with only two staff, one the entrepreneur and another core staff, get to understand what dreams the entrepreneur has, what expectations your core staff has of you. And by doing that, you'll be comfortable to know when you're doing the right thing, right? And when you're doing the right thing, it makes you happy, because every human beings are emotional beings. Mm-hmm. So it's very important to always take note of that. So if they don't know how to know what the right thing is, then how do they know how to do things right?
Yeah.
And that's really where the orientation is important, the onboarding process. So let them learn. If the person is a manager or a person is going to be supervising some people, let them engage with those who are going to report to them. Let them understand these people, what do they expect from me. The people, the individuals you're going to report to, your supervisors, engage with them, have a chat with them. So what do you expect of me? And most important, if it's a big organization, it will be important to meet with the one who your supervisor reports to. Because remember, you serve your supervisor such that your supervisor can satisfy their supervisor. So if you are aligned, you will have less friction in your getting into the position you're occupying.
Okay. It's I hear very often from some of our friends that whenever they bring a new person into their workforce, it's almost as if the older teams are intimidating him. Mm-hmm. Either it's insecurity, or maybe they're afraid that the new person will take their job or take away an opportunity. What are some ways that business owners and HR managers can mitigate that issue?
So I'll jump in here. I really think that it's upon us as business owners to create that culture, and that message, that tone should then trickle down to managers and supervisors in larger organizations, so that people recognize that they're working together, again, towards a shared purpose. And part of it is also just getting your team together and saying, hey, why are we all here? What are we working towards? And once you create that shared purpose, that shared goal, regardless of the mission of your business, then you can recognize that you're only going to get there working together. So I think there's a lot of ways to build that, to create team building. You know, whether it's having weekly meetings or regular check-ins where you sit around the table and start by asking one another, how are you doing? That's a really simple takeaway for businesses. Start your meetings and ask people how they are. And you know, once you create that culture of care from the top, then that should trickle down. But you have to set that tone. I think Patrick's mentioned this, that our people are human beings first. And so as naturally, what we want is to belong. So whether it's why people go to church, it's why we have tribes or nations. People seek this sense of belonging, even within a workplace, because that's where we spend most of our time. So how can we create that sense of belonging so everybody feels like they're part of something bigger, and the people above or below them are facilitating that, and they're partners?
Yeah, one thing I've done at Fairway is I've introduced a buddy system. So for every new staff that comes in, they're given a buddy that's been there for at least 3 to 5 years. And that way they feel like they have that person they can come to if they're lost or if they have any questions. Sometimes it's even simple things like, where do we get tea? Where do we get lunch? Yeah. So that buddy system is something that's quite powerful, and it can work in a lot of organizations. So tip 3, whenever you're onboarding someone, always make sure they understand their KPIs. What are their expectations? How do they succeed in their role? And always have a proper introduction. Take them around your workplace, make sure they're introduced to the right people. Anybody from the security guard to the cashier, it's very important to have those introductions. We talk about corporate culture. Patrick, what is corporate culture? How do you build a strong corporate culture, and how do small businesses do that as well?
So We recently engaged in a discussion with the different businesses that we do business with, and we noted that the culture is really reflected by the staff below the supervisors. The managers always strive to be the bulls in the corral, and until the manager places themselves as the person serving the subordinates, the culture of cohesion and corporate culture is basically you're driving towards the same goal, you're pulling in the same direction. But if the rewards are only captured by those at the top, I mean, it's like you plant an apple tree, and the fruits it starts to give fruit, and those at the bottom cannot receive because the managers are picking them, hand picking them out. Those at the bottom who contributed to the process are asking, but what's in it for us? So this corporate culture thing, to push the whole staff force in the right direction, the managers have to drive it. And the managers have to drive it in the way that they are serving their subordinates. Not they're the manager. They're not managing their subordinates, they're serving them. Recently, lockdown for pretty much 2 years. A lot of people working from home. Did we really understand whether people were working? Or did they have to go and sit on the street and connect onto Wi-Fi because their home was not really the place that they could work? There was a need to put Zoom and get all these things, but did we understand that some of our homes are not necessarily homes where you can compare to a workplace? They're not conducive for a workplace. So if we're all pulling in the right direction, you would ask your subordinate. If the manager cared about the subordinates, they would ask, are you ready? Is everything okay? And the subordinate would know, once I respond, I'm not going to be bashed, but my manager is going to respond to me and care for me. So the concept of empathy starts from the top, the managers, going downwards. Of course, as CEOs, you have also to listen. If you enter a room and out of the 60 minutes you speak for 40, you should have sent an email. Don't call people and speak all through. Let everyone speak what they have to share, because there you're creating a spirit of togetherness and pulling in the same direction. And it's okay for people to pull in a wrong direction, but they pull in a wrong direction and you correct them. But you need to know, because they may be pulling when you don't know. That's worse. Yeah. So if they keep quiet and you don't know where they're pulling, and you're wondering why you're not moving in one direction, you have lots of friction, probably you're not listening to them.
So as CEOs, we should talk less and listen more.
Correct.
Although we all like the sound of our own voices, I think it's it's something that can benefit in the boardroom.
Share your direction. Yeah. Share where you want to go.
Yeah.
Let them share with you how they think they can help you to get there. Yeah. Because they are the ones who are going to take you there.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
I think another point you made that we could touch on again is the importance of managers, and how a manager is almost like a coach in a football team.
Correct.
You know, your job is to make sure and motivate your team to ensure they're winning, they're scoring those goals. So any managers at home, try to find ways to create more of a coach environment and actually help your team attain their goals. When we talk of corporate culture, we talk a lot about motivation. What are some of those ways that businesses can motivate their staff? And I don't only believe it's financial. I think whether you pay 500, 700, it's never enough. So there has to be something else that businesses do that motivate their staff other than the financial part. What are some of those advices you have?
I would say, really shows, I think people want to be treated fairly. So I think the finances come in when people feel like they are being disadvantaged compared to others in the organization. But if it's seen that, okay, the business is struggling and we're all kind of struggling with it, then it's less of an issue. But I think it's just being heard and feeling taken care of. And sometimes that means having benefits. Sometimes it means, your supervisor checking in on you if you're sick. or if you're out for some time, or if you've lost a relative, just showing that you care in many ways, and bringing people together and being accessible. I think if you demonstrate that you're accessible, then people feel like they can come to you when things are when they're feeling disgruntled. You don't want somebody feeling disgruntled and you have no idea about that.
We talk a lot about, I guess, building a team in a way, a team working towards certain goals. What are some of those ways or activities that business owners can do to build a strong team? Patrick?
Yeah, I like to say that at QSourcing, we've got hardworking people, we've got lazy guys, and we've got those who are both hardworking and they think. So the hardworking guys are those who are very task oriented, right? You give a task and they will complete it in the shortest time and to the specifications you wished, and reward them for that, right? The lazy guys, you see, every time you give a task, they're looking for the shortest way to avoid doing it. But these guys are helpful in the organization because they're always the ones who look for innovative ways of doing it differently. So for as long as they keep bringing up those innovative ways, they're useful to the team. And the team will respect their presence because they'll always look for them and ask them, so what can I do differently? And the team plays out itself. Then, of course, there are those who are both hardworking and they think they think differently. Those are the go-getters, your high performance, high potential guys. Those will always create friction in the team because they expect to be rewarded differently. They do not settle. They do not rely on anyone. Remember, the hardworking guy relies on the lazy guy to think, right? The lazy guy relies on the hardworking guy to execute the task. This guy who does both is asking, why am I not rewarded for both? So those are the guys whom you send on special assignments and stuff like that. But what I'm trying to say here is that identify and I understand your teams because they play different roles and align them to the tasks according to their demeanor, their characters. And you will have happy people. They will certainly not be the same. They're not the same. We're all different.
So what I'm understanding from you is there needs to be some sort of strategy behind not only running a team, but building your team where you have different personalities within. And you need to really understand what is each person's strength and weakness and how do they play together to attain their goals.
And just to put it into perspective, there are those tasks that, for lack of a better word, are lone workers. These guys, they design teams, right? Then there are those who are, the accountants. Accountants do not like to talk to you. Just like send the figures and analyze them or build the books. But then there are those who are the project managers. They want more information. They want to discuss with the teams. All these guys play a role. So you can imagine if you only have accountants, you will have lots of silos. If you have only designers, they will not talk to each other. Yeah. But if you have a mix of all these guys, you're going to have a very, very high performing team. Yeah.
Okay. Once you've built that team, Neha, what are some of those activities or team building exercises that people can use in their own workforce?
There's lots of creative ways to team build. I remember when I was at the International Law Institute, we took a one-day hike in Mabira Forest, and it got everybody out of their comfort zone, got us dirty. It was a great way to just kind of go through an invigorating and tough experience and see how people react and how they are out of the office. Another team building that I really love is to have an excerpt, a reading from, a book that is inspiring, or a poem or something, and you just hand it across the table to everyone in your organization, and you discuss it. It's amazing how it's unrelated to your work, likely, and it's something that people are not used to reading. We don't read that kind of. A lot of us don't read that. And anything really outside of work-related assignments. And so to be forced to read and reflect and take you out of that zone, it's also something that's very cheap. You just sit around the table and you talk about a reading that you've all shared. So things like that are easy ways to connect.
I think another thing that also gives purpose to your teams, and it's something we do at Fairway, is CSR and outreach. If you look at, for example, one activity we do every Eid, we get the staff together and we make a large pot of biryani. We pack it up in different packets and we give 4 packets to each staff. We say 3 are for you to take home to your family, and 1 is for you to, on the way home, to give it to someone who is less fortunate. So, these kind of CSR activities get the team working together towards a better cause. You could sponsor a KCCA school near you, read to kids, do cleanups around your neighborhood. There's a lot of free activities that you can do with your staff to build that teamwork and also build that positive impact you have in your community. So tip number 4, in a way of creating a better corporate culture, spend time on your staff, even by simply asking them, how are you today? How do you feel about this? Those few simple things really show them that importance. Ask them questions. Ask them about their family life, about their home life. What are their goals? What are their motivations? We might think we understand what our teams want, but by asking them, it will actually help us better understand. Team building exercises, they don't have to cost money. CSR activities, they benefit the community and the team. And build healthy competition. Just like a football team, you build competition between your members to see who can accomplish this first. And make sure you foster it in a very positive way. So let's talk about some advice for those watching online at home on how to better prepare for interviews and how to strengthen their CVs. There's some, and I'm sure it's the same for both of you. We receive hundreds, if not thousands of CVs in a year. We look at each CV maybe for 30 seconds to 60 seconds before we toss it in a pile. So the way you structure your CV has to stand out. In the same way, in an interview, I can almost tell in the first 30 to 40 seconds, is this a candidate that I'm going to be interested in or not? That first impression is very, very important. Now, what are some tips you have for people who are about to go for an interview or who are about to send out their CV?
Go online. There are a million templates you can find that for free. That'll tell you how to structure, because format matters. Like you said, if you don't see it in the first 30 seconds, it's going in the bin. Keep it clean, clear, concise, but don't miss out those achievements. And don't keep it to more than 1 page if you're entry level, not more than 3 pages if you're an expert. So keep it to the highlights. If you can, the most important thing for work experience is to be able to identify your achievements. So yes, you were working at X organization for 6 years, but what did you contribute? What did you achieve? Did you increase sales by 20%? Did you reduce costs by 15%? Like those figures that can capture your achievements are very helpful.
Okay. And Patrick, yourself?
Yes, so I'll approach it from the angle of what do we look for when we're hiring for ourselves and also for our clients. Number 1 is, what are your skill sets? Skills and competencies. Clearly define them and describe them, as well as passion. Number 2 is, where have you done it? Can you reflect? Can you show us the achievements that you had, and where exactly are those achievements? Where did you achieve those things that you talk about? Why do we ask for those things? Is because we're going to check that out, and that's what gets you into the door for the shortlist and for the interviews. In the interview, we'll then drill deeper into how does that align now with the company where we intend to hire you, either for QSourcing itself or for another client of ours. That alignment is what happens now in the interview. But what have you done before? Your skill set, your competencies, your achievements, where you worked, very important.
Okay. So tip number 5, I think Neha said it well at the beginning. The job is yours to lose. Once you're in the door and you're sitting in that seat, it's your time. Take a breath before you enter that door. Compose yourself well, put your head up high, and do your best. Think about what you learned from every experience and how it can be applied to the job you're applying for. So you might have been volunteering at an orphanage, for example. Just because it wasn't a paid job doesn't mean you didn't learn skills. How can you apply those skills to what you're applying for? That's what your interviewer is looking for. What are your passions? Don't be afraid to tell your interviewer what you like, what your passions are, and how this role fits into your 5, 10, or even 15-year plan. And think of your contributions of what you made to your previous work. We are hiring you because we want you to contribute to our organizations as well. If you can clearly show us how your contributions will help us grow, you've got that job. So let's take it back now to us as entrepreneurs. Maybe I'll start with Patrick. Patrick, how do you face a challenge and what are those steps you take to overcome it?
Number one is I start from the position of there probably is someone out there who knows how to deal with this better than me.
Yeah.
The person may not be in the country, maybe I can't reach them, but they might have written it in a book. So I go online and I just type it out. And I don't type it out to get an answer, but I type it out to get reading materials, reference points, and I read on that. The second thing is to bounce off some of my peers, fellow business people, have a cup of tea with them, and it's strange that usually you get the answer to your challenge during these meetings or even reading through these materials towards the end of all that you've listened to or read, and it suddenly occurs to you that this actually may be the solution. And they don't present it to you in the way as a solution to your challenge, no, but an experience. So read, listen to those who've done it before or who are doing things out there. Hear their stories. The challenge you're facing may not be identical, but for sure the process to solving that problem could be identical. The last thing, of course, is I consult my team very much. And you know, there's a tendency to stereotype some people that this is a very complicated thing. This junior person may not understand it. Try. They may give you some strange response that actually opens you up.
Yeah.
So always consult, trust your team. That's one thing that you need to learn as an entrepreneur. Trust your team because they are facing the market more often than you are. Yeah.
So educate yourselves when you're facing a problem. Google, ask a friend for tea, and pick their mind about it. And like you said, don't ask the people around you. Trust your team and ask the people who are really on the ground. Now, what are some of the steps you take when you're faced with a challenge? How do you overcome them?
So I just want to compare this to an emergency department in a hospital. You know, what an emergency department will do is as people come in, they triage. Triage means they determine at that point as they're entering who's severely hurt and whose injury is life-threatening or whose condition is life-threatening, whose condition is serious but not life-threatening, and whose condition is neither serious nor life-threatening. Because when you're in the startup environment or in any of your larger organizations, you're constantly in a firing line or in an emergency department. So being able to stop and reflect and determine, okay, this is of immediate priority, this is of important priority but not immediate, and this is something that we can put off for a little while and still prioritize. And so when you're able to triage, when you're able to see a problem and then categorize it in terms of priority, and then relate that to your team, make sure that message is trickling down that, you know, a team member comes to you and they don't even have to say they're burnout. You see that, you know, my team member's tired or struggling. Then we have to say, okay, let's step back and see what needs to be handled before the end of the week. What has to happen this weekend, and what can wait until Monday morning.
Yeah, I agree with you. That prioritization of challenges is quite important. As entrepreneurs, every day you're faced with a new challenge. It could be someone not showing up for work, a client not paying you on time. So it's very important to first understand what is the most important thing I have to tackle today, and then find the steps towards it. What are some of the learnings you've gained from going through COVID as an entrepreneur?
I would say stay alive. For those of us who have made it through, there's light at the end of the tunnel. And you know, as they say, especially when you're an early stage business, as many of our listeners are, your first 100, it's better to have 100 clients or even 10 clients that love you than 1,000 that have, other things to say. So if you can really just focus on even the smaller numbers, make sure you're serving your few clients very well and you're surviving, there's always a chance to grow later.
And how about yourself, Patrick? What have you learned through COVID?
I can't re-echo enough what she said about stay alive.
Yeah.
That's the number one thing. COVID was a mind-boggling challenge because as soon as the announcement came, lockdown, it was strange. We were like, what do we do in such a situation? So I quickly came up with a plan, and I had to rally the team together and share with them my thoughts on the situation, but ask also what do they think. I like to use my own personal experience as my passion in mountaineering. When there's a situation on the mountain, first you have to stay alive, and then you start to ask what next steps do I need to do to take to stay alive even longer, because you don't know how long this will take. When initially there was a lockdown, I think it was 3 months, the timelines kept moving, and it was like stretching us really to the limit, and you're like, okay, let's assume lockdown for 2 years. What do we do? How do we handle this? And that was a very difficult situation for us, because some team members are like, we can't survive that long. But when you start to engage, they start to share with you what their fears are, and you address those fears. Because you all have to be pulling in the same direction. That's number one thing. And once you have those interactions, even when they're at home, they know that the rest of the team is working at their different places, but pulling in that direction. So what it taught me is you've got to build a business that can live longer than you. Yeah. And how do you do that? You've got to share the vision. Whatever you're thinking about, share with them and let them think. They will make mistakes. That's for sure. That's a constant. But will they wake up and move on? Yes. Yeah.
No, I agree with you. In our first session, we were talking about the entrepreneur's why a few weeks ago. And I had said that before I paid my staff their salary, I made them recite our company mission and vision. Mm-hmm. And I got a lot of backlash about it online, but it's very important that you get your teams understanding what is your mission as a company, what is your vision. Whatever it takes as an entrepreneur, we have to do what it takes to make sure our teams also believe in that and work towards it. There are many associations, forums, business clubs out there, such as BNI, EO. We're also on the Stanford Seed alumni together, me and Patrick. How have such organizations helped your growth, and how can these help other entrepreneurs grow? Maybe I'll start with Patrick.
For a start, what's a constant, however small your business is as an entrepreneur, it's really lonely, because very few people understand what you're going through other than another entrepreneur. A lot of people look at the invoices you're sending out and they think all that money is entering your pocket. They don't realize that it's entering the business. It's what the business leaves for you at the end that really goes to the shareholders. And if you don't run the business efficiently, it's going to leave nothing. It's actually going to leave you in debt. So you've got always to think about keeping the business alive. We think about that, keeping the business alive, making sure you've got sufficient money to pay your suppliers, your team on time, all that. And if there are any delays, of course, you've also got to satisfy your client continuously and think differently, because the market is always changing. Competition is always after you. If you have a great business, just know that competition sees it too. It's not just you seeing it. So competition will keep increasing. So if you, as an entrepreneur, in that space, you need to share with another entrepreneur. These associations, these organizations give you that space, because you can share your experience and someone will share a story that will resonate with you, that will click with you. Feel free to go join these people. I know there is a tendency in Africa, I say even in Uganda specifically, for people to fear sharing their stories, because people will blast you and call you weak and call you all these kinds of names. It's okay. As an entrepreneur, really, what's important is your business staying alive, not if someone calls you weak.
Yeah. And how about yourself now? How have organizations such as EO helped you grow?
So I was lucky to have the opportunity to be a part of EO as a spouse. And I also belong to the Acumen community here. And for a few years, I was part of the Business and Professional Women Network, which is also really powerful for women entrepreneurs. For any early stage business, your first customers are going to be friends, family, and fools. So indeed, our first customers were friends, family, and fools, often from those networks. So our friends from those communities were the first to be our clients. They were the first to take a risk on us when we had no track record. They're the first to hire through us. We made our first mistakes with them. They were the first to forgive us. They were the first to use us again. So really, those relationships have been invaluable. I'd say they've been precious to us. We still hold them very close.
Okay. Yeah, for any of you who are interested in joining, there are so many organizations out there. EO is a great one, but there are other ones such as BNI, different forums online. So just spend some time, Google them, and really understand what it is you want to be a part of and how it can really help you. My last question before I take on some questions from the audience is, Patrick, what keeps you motivated to keep going? You do a lot of things. You're mountain climbing, you're cycling, you're growing businesses. What keeps you motivated?
I feel I was fortunate to have started a couple of businesses, and they have lived beyond the 5-year target for failure in some of these small business targets. So I always like to give back. So for me, the giving back is sharing with startup companies, sharing with them my story, not necessarily showing them that I'm an expert. I'm not an expert. I also keep learning. I like to stay healthy and safe. So I also like to share that with people, to say that, you've got to be healthy, otherwise what you're earning now, you will need to spend all of it. If not, you might not even have enough to look after yourself when you're older. And keep safe, because every incident that occurs in your life because of your carelessness is a cost. It's a cost to you and a cost to those who depend on your time. So for me, going mountaineering, going hiking, and reading a book and hanging out with fellow business people, and of course other friends, is something that keeps me relaxed. I as an entrepreneur, and all entrepreneurs suffer this, they're always thinking. So when you get home, they're asking you, when do you rest? And you're wondering, what does the question rest mean? So for me, I only rest my mind when I'm on the mountain. Yeah.
Okay. And how about yourself now? What keeps you motivated?
I'm a very purpose-driven individual. I always want to be working towards something that is larger than me. So, the why of our organization, why we do what we do, is what keeps me motivated every day. And, I think that's shared by all of our team members. And I think, that feeling of purpose, why you wake up every day is such a big part.
We stimulated a lot of thought. We have lots and lots of questions coming in. I'm going to pick a few and read them out, and just feel free to answer as you wish.
Okay.
So we have a question from Sheila Magero. I have a 1-year-old business that provides professional services in Uganda. Who can I go to for help with crafting a plan or strategy for hiring? I need a more hands-on deck because there is lots of room for growth in my business, and yet the budget is not yet there. I'm not yet earning enough revenue to hire. What are some advice you have for Sheila?
I would love to share advice with Sheila, because she's really our typical customer. I would say, yes, that's an exciting place to be. You're growing a business, and to have someone come in for a very short period of time, and you recognize that you can afford talent if it were packaged for the size of your business. So you don't have to hire. When you think of hiring, you don't have to think of who am I hiring from 8 to 5 from January to December. You can hire just for that, 1 week period, or you bring someone in like a consultant for 2 days. Let them talk to you through your business and help you think through who do I need in my business to help it grow? Maybe they tell you, okay, you need an accountant, or you need a bookkeeper. Like Patrick said, you don't always need an accountant, or you need someone to help you sell your product. So then you can again package what you need within these bite-sized pieces that you can actually afford. So we can afford a lot more than we recognize if we change how we define employment and hiring.
We have another question targeted towards Patrick from Jeffrey Bogere. How do I change the minds of my employees to know that they are a part of this business and not just employees, so that they can treat this as if it was their own business? What advice do you have for Jeffrey?
Yes, that's a continuous challenge. And what I would advise Geoffrey is, first of all, start by talking with the lower cadre, like the lowest cadre in your organization. Engage with them. Go have when they're having lunch or some me time, after during their breaks. Just go sit with them and chat, and ask them simple questions like how is work going. They'll give you some tidbits of things that are making them uncomfortable, but they can share with you at that point. And why do you start from the bottom? Because when you go upwards, talking to the supervisor about the things you feel as an individual, as the entrepreneur, and what you think they need to look out for, without telling them your feedback from your lunch or whatever session you had, such that the teams, as you go higher up the ladder, they build confidence in sharing with you, and you also can communicate with them. By doing that, they will start to ask you questions and not only complain all the time. There's a tendency for the immediate engagement to be an engagement of complaining. We've not gotten a chance with this guy, the boss. Let's complain. Share complaints. But when you start to engage with them and you share with them that, some of these complaints, the solutions are with you, propose. Ask them to think about it and propose. And when you give them the power to solve their own problems, they now come to you asking for, okay, we've got some ideas. Is this in line with where you want to go? Because not everyone will understand your big dream. Some people, like you're building a house, not everyone wants to see the whole architecture plan. Some just need to see the room, what you expect of the room. Yeah. And that's their space. That's their big dream. So package it in a way, but always engage. You have got to engage. And engage not through the managers, yourself. And it doesn't have to be every day or anything like that. Give it maybe every 4 months, every 3 months. It depends on the size of your company. But they want to hear from the boss. And it could even be once a year. Yeah.
We have a question from William Kizito and Robert. I've seen a few job openings as entry level. What is entry level? It seems like they want good talent at the cheapest cost. How do you apply for an entry level role? And how do I better represent myself to a company for a volunteer role? It doesn't seem to be easily understood by most corporates. Anyone?
I can take that. So entry level really means that there are no required qualifications. It's something where you will learn what's needed on the job. So to position yourself for an entry-level role, again, you really need to show that when you're put in a situation, you have the ability to learn. So you have to have that learning or growth mindset. You have to be willing to work hard. So again, just demonstrate that you can be the first one in and the last person to leave. Those are the things that stand out, even if you're at an entry level position. So really, how do you present yourself? Be confident. If you can get to the interview, be likable. Because people want to work with people that they like. So, do you create can you be part of a conducive work culture? So they're looking for intangibles in entry-level hires. Businesses are looking for people that are willing to come in, learn, rise to the challenge, work hard, not give up, be on time. So there are all these easy things that are very much within our control. So we talk about things that we have to know, certain qualifications we have to have, and those are harder to achieve. But so much of your success is based on things that you can control. Show up on time. Show up on time is actually a really hard one. We have a lot of people who can't show up on time. So if you're there, if you're the first one there, and you're the last one to leave, you're going to leave an impression. But of course, you don't want to be the first one there and the last one to leave and, on YouTube the whole day. So demonstrate your value to the organization. When you don't have work to do, ask how you can help. Be open to do different things. Be flexible. Those are invaluable characteristics of an entry-level hire.
And how about in terms of those applicants who are looking for the volunteer position, so at least they grow some skills? How can they approach that?
Approach different companies that you feel are in the space you'd like to grow into. Go to the HR manager, and sometimes for the CEOs, go to their personal assistants. Try to get there. Try to get your CV or your name heard, because you have no CV. But try and get your name that I would like to come and volunteer. That immediately means to me that you're not going to be a cost to me. But the next question is, what is it? Who are you? So there was a statement in there that do they just want to get talent cheap? When they say entry level, it's basically you're an apprentice. You're an apprentice. The opening is for someone who will come in. They are aligned on passion and the values. Basically, you meet the values. Ask the question, what are the values of this company? That's the bottom, the bare minimum. Beyond that, you start to learn. They attach you to someone who will train you. They put you on training programs. I think you have the companies that have management training programs, apprenticeship programs. Some say entry level. So you get into that and you start to train. While you train, you practice, and then you become a master at that field. Please, if you do not have the skills and competencies or a background of expertise or experience, you have no achievements to reflect, that's your point of entry. Do not complain about the amount of money being paid. Rather negotiate and say, I would like to eat at least. I need to eat, I need to survive. Present your case, but that's what they're looking for. And if they don't have the money, then some things you win, some things you lose. But if they can meet your need, and it's an entry-level position, enter, as Nia said, with a learning attitude.
Okay, thank you. There's a question from Madame Somali, who's in human resource. She's asking, how do you motivate staff in junior positions, such as waiters and cleaners, where there isn't that much opportunity for growth, but they need to spend maybe 5, 7, or 10 years in the same field? How do you motivate that demographic of employee?
That's a really tough one, because I think people do want to see the opportunity for growth, especially young people of our younger generation that's entering the workforce. People want to be a part of something. They want to see that next year is going to be better in the following year. So that's a tricky one. Although on the other side of the coin, there is stability, which a lot of young people and even older people don't have. So having that stability of income, the stability of knowing where you're getting a paycheck at the end of every month, that's definitely valuable. I think if we can give them an opportunity to dip their toes and work in different departments, there could be latent potential in those staff that you may not be harnessing. So if there's an opportunity for them to see what it's like. You actually, it's really surprising. I remember my co-founder was telling me about how the boy who ended up being their Askari ended up being a solar technician, like worked his way up to being a solar technician. He'd come in, he'd see the work that was being done. He's like, hey, can I learn? And all of a sudden he became a very popular solar technician. So I think we do need to show them that there is an opportunity to grow. And it doesn't mean we have to create a new job for them, but give them the opportunity to learn, to see the bigger operation, to see the bigger picture. And I might differ from Patrick on this, where I think like even the welder, if they had the opportunity to be brought in and see that whole house or see that whole building that they're working towards, then they're like, you know what, I may just be doing this small job, but this is what I'm working to, and I'm part of its success. So I think, I think that's all part of helping people feel that ownership.
So showing how they play, whether it's a small part, but in a much larger picture, and how
Yes.
their contribution is so important that even without them, it wouldn't matter.
Right.
I struggle with this in my own field. As a hotel, the bulk of your employees are in those junior roles.
Right.
So how do you motivate a cleaner to keep cleaning? And I always say, if you're not the one who's doing the laundry, the rooms can't be sold, right? If you're not the one cleaning the tables, someone can't sit on that table. So it's how do you really show to those people that, hey, they actually play a very, very important part in your organization? Mm-hmm. We have a question here from Philip Buyondo. What are some of the questions or tactics you use to check a candidate's culture fit in an interview? And how can you interview for honesty?
I can talk about interviewing for honesty. I'll leave the hard questions for Patrick. But I think with honesty, it's very hard to tell in an interview. What I rely on is references and ratings from people that have worked with this candidate before. And so even as Flip, even for short-term jobs, and even longer, of course, longer-term jobs, we always ensure that we've talked to people that have worked with that candidate before. And one of there's 4 criteria that we ask about: the quality of work, the professionalism, timeliness, and the 4th, which I think is the most important, integrity. So how trustworthy are they? I don't think you can tell in 30 minutes, 1 hour, 1 interview, 3 interviews. People show up differently for an interview as they might in the workplace, especially after a period of time. So I think the best indicator of...
Yeah. One question that we often throw in is, one, we ask, what are your values as an individual? And then we ask against your values, and tell us about that experience and what you learned from it. So from the response, you could tell, you will tell the honesty, and it around to present a strong character. If there's vulnerability in the response, it's very difficult to get to that point. Mm-hmm. It's only honesty in the submission that will get you there. It's kind of like a counseling session. If you're not honest to your counselor, they will not get to the bottom of it. And exposing yourself in that place shows how honest you are at responding to situations. Yeah.
Are there any examples of questions that interviewers can ask from any of you to test on honesty or to test on corporate culture?
I mean, I think there's always just a practical question. Like, let's say, you're in the field and you're handling a large amount of cash, and some of it, you go back to the office and it's not accounted for. How would you address that? So, I mean, you can definitely see it in how they go about handling discrepancies. Also asking, like, what do you think someone or that you've worked with before would say about you? So if people think of themselves as someone of integrity, it's more likely that they are, because that's how they define themselves, by how trustworthy they are, by how straightforward they are. So sometimes the answer lies therein, but like I said, it's not an easy one.
Yeah, I mean, you could put a situation where, okay, Nia is my friend. She sees me picking some money from the safe, and we are both accountable for it. And the question to her is, Patrick is your friend, would you sell him out if they have not asked you the question? Will you come forward and report it? And the person says, yes, I will. They're lying. They won't. Because you should, if Niha didn't stop me when I was doing it, why should she report me after? That's
okay.
Yeah.
What are some ways to set strong KPIs for your team? How do you set KPIs? How do we go about even the process of doing it?
I think businesses need to slow down and understand the role of the person coming in. So you really have to put yourself in the shoes of the person coming in and understand what you expect from them. Because it's very easy for someone to come in, and because you don't have that specific skill set, you might not know what that person's supposed to do. For example, if I'm a business owner and I don't have an accounts background, how do I create KPIs for my accountant? How do I create KPIs for my salesperson if I don't understand sales? So, I mean, one really easy thing to do is there's so much information online, even just Google, Google what are the key performance indicators, or what are the key tasks and deliverables for an accountant, and then make sure you customize them for your organization. But I'd say that's a very, very easy takeaway is there's resources, free resources online.
Anything?
Yeah. So for every business owner, every entrepreneur, you've got your targets, right? So spell out 3 to 5 targets. If 3, that's okay. And let them be clear to you. And then go to those who report to you. Pick out one of those targets to each person and break it down. What does it mean at that level? And so on and so forth. If it keeps going lower and lower, you see they keep meeting each other, but they all have got to speak to your 3 to 5 targets. Mm-hmm. So the detail gets more and more as you go down, and that's pretty much. Do not struggle to say that they've got to be many. No, the more they are, the more confusing it is for the staff member. So 3, if you can get 3, that's fine. If out of your 3 to 5, you can only cascade 3 of them and 2 remain with you, that's what it is.
Okay.
But it's got always to point in your targeted direction.
So working towards a general target.
Absolutely.
We have a question from Patience. As a startup, the entrepreneur will need to continue working at another job while the business grows. What creative way have you applied to supervise your startup amidst your other busy schedules? I mean, this is a challenge I think everybody faces, whether you're a startup and you're working somewhere else as well, or whether you're in control of your own business. How do you put systems in place so that you can be doing other things and your company keeps growing and doing well?
I think having regular check-ins, having someone that deputizes you, that you have to give also that control to people within your organization, and to trust them and allow them to make mistakes. So I think if you create that enabling environment where people in your organization can take ownership of different tasks, and report to you and let you know when things are going wrong. There's a lot of tracking tools, I know. Our team members like to use Asana. There's a lot of online management tools to make sure you're all on the same page. So there's Trello, and many of them are free. So I definitely recommend using some of those online performance management tools so that you and your team can stay on the same page, but check in with your team regularly. They shouldn't feel your absence, really. They should know that, you are in it 100%. Even if you have another job, you're just working 150%. But you should, if it's your business and you really want it to grow, you need to be giving it 100%.
So look for those online free services, and even things like WhatsApp. I mean, if you have, for example, someone managing your shop at home, you could ask them to send you a photo on WhatsApp every 2 hours. Things like that are easy for you to manage and don't cost you extra money. Is there anything else that you...
Yes. So 3 things I would like to say to that. One, you have to define your role in this new business. Are you an investor putting money and someone else is executing? Or are you part of the technical team with the technical competencies to deliver on the service? If you're an investor, then yes, you could get reports coming through, and you not necessarily be required to give feedback. If you are part of the technical team, then you've got to break down that process. If there are tasks that you have to deliver, you've got to make it clear to them that this I will be delivering, and then you can follow these online tools with the Trello, the WhatsApp, there's so many other tools. So, but you deliver on your task. Now, you're working somewhere else, but the objective in that instance, especially if you're part of the technical delivery, technical team, you build a reserve as a business. So that reserve has got to be sufficient to carry you probably 3 to 6 months. Until it can do that, you'll have to do the two. Otherwise, you'll be stressed out financially, and the business will suffer.
I experienced this myself as well, where I set kind of KPIs, and 6 months have passed, a year has passed, 2 years have passed, and even though we're giving small promotions at work and small upgrades, staff are like, well, now I'm doing what you've asked me to, now I want more money, I want this, I want a promotion. What can you say to people like that who are there doing a job and doing it well, but then feel discouraged that they're not getting the financial growth that they're hoping for?
Mm-hmm. I would say have humility. I think that applies to both business owners and team and talent, or those who are joining the workforce or in the workforce. Have the humility to recognize that when your business succeeds, you also succeed, but that you're working together, and that businesses have a lot of challenges, a lot of overhead and other costs that you might not see or know, and be patient. That doesn't mean don't ask for what you believe you're worth, but have humility to recognize that it shouldn't be immediate. You can't be working somewhere like 2, 3, 6 months and be like, I'm ready for your raise, for my raise, unless maybe at the time of hire you had agreed, 3 months in we'll increase you to this rate. But just recognize that you're working together, and to show that team spirit, you really have to demonstrate your value and your worth before you ask for that raise.
We have another question from Lorna Akot. How best can I work with a supervisor that never listens in regards to team opinions?
Well, yes, we've got lots of those in the workplace. I think it's important, one, try and have a conversation with the person if they don't listen. It's like you're marketing, you're putting up a pitch. Prepare it like a pitch for your suggestions. It's got to resonate with what the person's expectations are of you, but also of what they themselves stand for, what their targets are. If you are pitching to me something that clearly impacts on my targets, it's very difficult for me to ignore. Well, there will be some people who have got a big, larger-than-life ego, and they don't want the proposal to come from you. Those, you just leave it with them and say it's just a proposal, just a suggestion. Take it if it makes sense to you, and it's okay. And they will listen with time. Yeah.
So structure your feedback in a way where the supervisor also maybe understands the benefit that they'll get,
Correct.
the organization will get, and how it also will help them advance their own career perhaps within the organization.
Correct.
I'm going to take one more question before we do our closing remarks. We have a question from Agaba Chris. For starters, how do I choose the best idea out of the many that I have? So, Chris, I struggle with the same thing. I have lots, and I think many of us entrepreneurs do. We have full of ideas. I see an opportunity here, I want to do this. I see something here, I want to do this. Panel, how do we choose those opportunities? How do we prioritize them and make decisions?
Think about the ones that make the most business sense. Which of those ideas can turn into opportunity. But I think also understanding what do people not only need, but what do people want. So I think that market survey, because we have so many assumptions in our head, like this would be a great idea because people need this. But do people want it? Do people want to pay for it? How much? So, I think starting slowly and starting with that market survey, starting with a few customers, starting to make sure like you have that 1, 2, 10, 100 customers that'll pay you for this. That's the way to sort of triage your business ideas.
Well, three things. Number one is your idea solving a problem that's clear, and the problem is not what you see, but what people keep complaining about. And number two is it painful enough for them to pay for it? And number three will be, can you solve the problem within the costing that you think people will be ready to pay for it? So you may have so many dreams, but if you're not solving those three, if you're not answering those three questions, just, yes, it's okay to dream, but don't risk your time and money unless you answer those questions.
Yeah. No, for those watching at home, thank you so much for your questions. We couldn't get to all of them, but thank you so much for giving them to us. To close up, what are those last words of advice you have for entrepreneurs and business owners at home who are trying to grow their business in relation to attracting and retaining talent?
I would say build the team that you want to be a part of, and be the leader that your team needs and wants.
For the businesses, create impact, whatever it takes. What your business is delivering, whether a product or service, look for what impact it's having on the communities. For those who are looking for meaningful jobs, look for those companies that resonate with your values, that what you want to be in future. It's important. Yes, you may go through a couple of positions, but let your dream job be that one that resonates with your wishes and dreams. Yeah.
And I think the last thing I would say is that create that corporate culture that you yourself would like to work at. If you're always fearing your job, you're going to get fired. If you're always fearing you're not going to get paid, you're not going to work hard for that company. So as a business owner, make sure you provide that security and stability for your staff so they can focus on running your businesses and not worried about, am I going to get paid this month? Am I not? Focus on giving them that stability so they can work hard for you. Thank you guys very much for your time and advice. And yeah.
Thank you so much, our dear panel. Thank you to our viewers, and thank you for turning in good numbers. Maybe what we would like to hear some more in these remaining few minutes is each one's story. Maybe apart from Azza, we've had you before, we've even come to your place and interviewed you, but maybe Neha, I hope I pronounced your name well.
Yes, you are.
And Mbonyi, Miss Mbonyi, your personal story, because when you see you here as entrepreneurs, when we see you here as chief executives, we wonder, did you just wake up one day and you're in that position, or how did you transpire to get in there? I think I'll start.
You want me to start? Okay. How long do we have?
Make it
let me keep it short.
possible.
Okay. So I would say that I'm born and raised in the U.S. with a long family history through Uganda, and growing up as an Indo-American, I always felt invisible in many ways. And so when I thought about while I was at the International Law Institute, I'm a lawyer by training. While I was at the International Law Institute for a decade here in Uganda.
Yesterday was my favorite place, but today I don't see nobody. All alone, no familiar face. Need someone to be right beside me. 7 days and 20 hours since you left. Different ways, your voice still popping in my chest. And I still hope, I hope you're coming back soon. You're coming back soon. Take me to another place where the fairy tales don't end. Magical, magical land, magical, magical land. To another place where the fairy tales don't end. Magical, magical land, magical, magical land.
My passion, I felt like there was an opportunity there to create visibility for a group of people that did feel very invisible, as I felt I did in many ways when I was younger. How can we, it's not about who you're related to or how important you are or who your uncle is, but can you get the job done? And so to give faces to those people, to give them an opportunity to be seen for what they can do and what their potential is, that was really my driving factor.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it short. Well, I grew up downtown Kampala on a street called William Street. So we liked to play around in town. So there were no street boys then. I think we enjoyed the peace of Kampala. Why I talk about that is because I was brought up by a single parent, and as I grew up, for me, what my mother gave to me was education. And when my dad got into my life, he then sponsored me to go for further studies. I came back. I really was very passionate about studying, because I thought that is what brought me, what distinguished me from the others, my peers, whom we used to run the streets of Kampala together. When I got back from my studies, just master's degree, I joined the World Bank and the World Bank, then the UNDP, supporting small businesses. And for me, the turning point was when my boss was more than double my age, and I had to grow into that role. I was like, okay, how many years is this going to take me? I was like, okay, I've got to make the jump, and that's when I started QSourcing. And all my life, what I stand for is empowering people, skilling Africans. I don't believe that whereas people talk about Africa is rising, I don't know whether Africans are rising, but the only thing that will draw the line is if they're skilled. If they're skilled, they'll get access to these opportunities, and that's what really I stand for. And all the partnerships that I do with the company, the businesses that I'm involved in, is impacting on this continent, because this is the only continent we have. I know so many people like to go out there looking for what we call cheyo, but you'll always come back home. So we've got to make this home as attractive as we can, and I believe the impact that we can create, at least through what I can give back for these, the benefits I've had and the life I've had, is skilling. So skilling and giving people the opportunity is what I stand for.
Thank you so much. So now we know a little bit of more detail about each one of you. Thank you so much for that. So I'm here just to conclude this talk today, and I'm very grateful and honored. I still send our appreciation to Mr. Azar for allowing us to tap into the knowledge and wisdom that sits on the EO. Why people that come for this business talks, at least for the next 5 months or so, will be a little bit more diverse. And some people, I'm sure you look at them and you wonder, why do we have that person now? All the people that will be on this panel are members of the EO, and the one distinguishing factor for you to be a member of the EO, you have to be making a turnover of $1 million a year. So the people you're listening to on these business talks actually command that much money. So as an entrepreneur, as a person looking for a job, I think they have really good nuggets to give to us throughout the next couple of months. Just to conclude, I would like to point out a few that stood out for me. There's a part where Neha said to an individual who is looking for a job and you're writing a CV, keep it simple. And I remembered at some point my CV was 4 pages, yet I was just a graduate from Makerere University. So I will keep telling the people that are yet to come that always keep it simple. They look out for that. And she also mentioned at some point the humility. That goes for both the business owner and for you, a person looking for a job. The humility matters a lot. So please be humble, please be patient, and wait to get your recognition and to sprout out, because it doesn't come just a one-day process. And at some point, Mr. Mbonyi said, when you plant a tree, and it was according to the manager and a lower level person, when you plant an apple tree, don't you at the top eat the apples alone. Look out for the people down, because usually they do the hard work for you to actually have fruits up. Thank you so much for today. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for sparing your valuable time to actually sit on this panel. We are forever grateful. For those who have missed, and if you want to tell a friend or if you want to rewatch, this will forever stay on the NSSF YouTube page. So come up anytime and rewatch and pick out a thing or two. So one last thing to the panel, we always mention a book that has inspired you or that you're currently reading. I saw that question somewhere specifically to you, Mr. Mbonyi. What is your current read? Because at some point you mentioned that you keep reading. So we'll start with you.
The World is Flat. That's the book.
I think this is a very popular one. I think I'm the last to read it, but Outliers. My partner just, I started with an excerpt and now I'm going in. Yeah, thank you.
I can't remember what book I said last time, but I'm still reading a book called Upstream, and it's about how do you solve problems before they come out. So it's like, for example, if you keep getting customer complaints about your water temperature, how do you solve that problem from the kitchen so it doesn't keep reoccurring in your business?
Wow. Thank you so much. We would like to acknowledge Renzori for actually giving us a refreshment, and we would like to acknowledge Fairway Hotel for giving refreshments to this panel, and for also allowing their CEO to actually make it today, and for all the times that the EO will actually be with us. Thank you so much. Thank you to our dear viewers. We'll be back here next month, and we'll be having a different topic for you to learn from. Thank you for always being a part of our classes, and thank you for sparing your time to actually tune in and listen in and learn. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. Happy weekend.